Okay. Disassembly and reassembly after cleaning 1919. Technically A4, even though it doesn't have the bipod, it still has the carry handle. Remember, safety, you want to have a nice big area. You want to have something behind you that works to prevent someone getting hurt, because this here spring has a significant force. And I'm using my bedroom, obviously, but the bed is the biggest area I can use, so I just put a military blanket here so the wife doesn't get as mad with me. Taking off the pinto mount for the tripod, because that's just going to get in my way. And then you want to make sure you're using a good bore cleaner, oil, and a bore clean sock. Need for this a flathead screwdriver. You pull the charging handle back, put the screwdriver into the spring, and you turn it 90 degrees. You release the charging handle. Make sure that the spring is not moving. You can adjust it slightly. You want it to be perfectly 90 degrees to give yourself as much safety wiggle room as possible. And then from there, open this up, bring the charging handle back, forward a little bit, and some of these weapons are looser than mine. You want to get in here and push your latch here forward, which will release the pistol grip. Sometimes you just need a right angle of the... Okay, that was the most dangerous part, because there's no real way I know of to avoid getting behind this. But that lets you pull the charging handle back the rest of the way so you can pull it out. There's a little knob here, which your charging handle has a nipple to press into. That lets you pull the entire assembly out. Always, always, always make sure this spring is pointing away from anything important. Because if it comes out and has the force of a actual round, well, maybe not the round that goes out of here, but there have been reports of people dying from that. In fact, I had a buddy that actually served in the military, very similar weapon. At this point, it's facing this wall, which I am underground here. So if it does go through the wall, it's going into ground. I had a buddy that served in the military with the M60 machine gun, which was basically a combination of this and the MG42. Had one of those springs go off and right into his head and out the other side, and it was still in both ends. His buddy had that happen to him. He witnessed it. The guy did survive, but it is extremely dangerous, and the guy was lucky to have survived. Now, once you got to this point, you can completely unscrew the barrel from the rest of the assembly, which I like to do because it gives me a better cleaning surface. You can use your M1 Garand tool kit here to get a nice quick clean here. I don't have that on hand right now, so I'm just going to use a quick rag for the surface and then bore clean it. I'm going to, actually before I pull the bore cleaner completely out, this is a nice blanket still, so I don't want it getting completely on this blanket, so I'm going to lay another layer of protection, which also helps for the wife. You don't want that getting messed up. I thought I had an open container. Double check. Well, time to open a brand new container. Remember, all this stuff is technically poison. Using the flat surface in here to accommodate that. There is soap in case it gets into something I don't want it into. That gives me a quick little clean, but that's not a thorough clean. You want to obviously wash out of station. Make sure none of this gets into your eyes. Dab a little bit there. If you've ever cleaned a weapon, then you know what's going on at this point. But just want to get that nice surface. I will be running the bore snake through it with the cleaner. I'm just working out the surface for right now. And then, yeah, this is a long form. I'm sure you can find others if you want a quick form, but or you can just fast forward. Okay, dab that again, and technically you can so a little spring there, not quite as dangerous as this. Is the only real spring that's really dangerous. The others you just want to be careful about because you don't want to be losing parts. Basically, I'm just doing a quick little cleanup because I had an event recently, and anywhere where the powder can get at from shooting, I want to get a little bit, well, I want to get a lot bit cleaner, but this is just before I set her away. Get the threads pretty good. This is where that barrel threads into. Now, any of the stuff going on here is not going to have the powder residue because that is just the where everything goes before. But anything back here and then anything back here has a little bit of powder residue. The main powder is going to be through the barrel, obviously. I'm going to want to take the blank firing adapter out as well. And it's the same procedure for live fire. I do have the adapter for live fire. It's just literally the end tip right there, for those who don't know. And I also prefer the cone shape for two reasons. One is it lets other people know I'm firing blanks, and if a live round does go through there, that's going to be a problem more for me than it is anyone else. You always want to double check your rounds. Also on that end, I have a bullet stopper and a pre-bullet stopper, which is for reenacting purposes. It has an unfortunate effect of not being able to attach an ammo box here, but I'd rather have that than have an accidental live round go through, because I do take her out to the range as well. The other factor, you can actually get the ammo boxes that are adapted for that. They actually have a bullet stopper built into those ammo boxes. Pretty neat. I might eventually get one and just leave it attached. It's more for crew-served weapons, which, I mean, mounted weapons like on a Jeep, which this is usually mounted on a Jeep to begin with. So that probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, that's size it. That's before I get too far involved. Let's grab this. And grab the blank firing adapter off here. Tighten, releasing. Okay. I'm going to have to figure that one out later. I probably don't have enough torque is what's going on. But either way. And that's the other thing is, whenever you're dealing with anything dangerous, especially firearms, if you're not knowing what you're doing at the moment, stop. You can look it up later. While that's probably not all that dangerous, it's just a general rule of thumb that I go by. If I'm not figuring things out right away, if I'm forgetting something, just stop and figure it out later. There's no need to try to get it all done on one shot. This isn't a this is a hobby. This isn't the real world, and you don't want it to affect your real world. Okay. What I do here is I put the cap underneath here to catch excess, and I just pour a little bit over. And then we'll pour that right back in. So I poured enough in there to soak the snake section. This section has a bristle. It's just like a regular rifle snake or your shotgun snake for the bore. I do 3 passes. I'm always like to do from the inside out, because even though I have it completely disassembled, it just gives me the habit for when I'm doing other weapons. Because if I'm cleaning when I'm tired, I want to be doing the right method. The reason I like to do it from the inside out is that way all this gunk is going out the barrel and not into the assembly. There's some weapons that you are not going to get the barrel out of the assembly. And 1 grand, I quite often in cleaning with the barrel inside. You take the part as much as you dare, but it's still inside the wood, and there's still a bit of assembly right there. And you just don't want to be having to re-clean after yourself. So on the 3rd time, I do it a little bit different on the 3rd. And then some people stop on the 3rd. I like to go a 4th. But the 3rd is when I do the back and forth. Some people do that on the 2nd. Some people don't even do the back and forth. What I'm doing here is I'm going this way, and I'm going like this, and then I'm do that 3 times. This is the 2nd, and the 3rd, and then the final full way forward. Okay, put that there. Grab a fresh pad, a little more bore cleaner. Set that right there. Close completely on your bore cleaner, and then do the final touches. From the inside, look at your rifling if it matters to you. This has actually still got some pretty good rifling. Get the same look. A common problem you'll see in weapons when you're firing blanks is somewhere in the middle you'll have a gap in your rifling because you're corroding the rifling without any bullet going through to clean it out. So there really isn't anything you can do to completely stop that from happening, but maintenance will slow it down, and just proper care of your weapon. Remember, yes, we are playing with these because it's reenacting and such, but they are real weapons. They are dangerous. Even when you have them properly loaded with only blanks, that is still an explosive round right there. You know, something could go wrong. You can have an out of battery malfunction. You can have, it can basically go off like a grenade at any spot of it. And it's not just your own safety you have to be worried about here. You can affect others. Like where I mentioned earlier, I made a misstep on my speaking, where the blank firing adapter lets people know, etc. And then it's only really affecting me if something goes wrong. It's actually still going to be like a grenade. It'll affect everyone right in my adjacent area as well. And it could technically send that blank firing adapter forward. But it does let people know that you are cognizant to be putting a blank firing adapter on there. Now, trust as you will, or don't trust as you will. That is up to you. But that is the basics that I'm trying to accomplish. Okay. What I'm doing now is I'm trying to make sure I keep everything in order. You can break this down a lot more. Like I said, this goes into like several different parts, and then this goes into 3 parts, a few more than that. This, I never break this down, except for maybe this part here to clean if it's dirty. I will clean the groove here, make it nice and dry. You don't keep that dry, but you want to get it nice and dry with the bore cleaner. And then here is where the firing pin is, which is why the spring's there. And that's where the most cleaning is going to be needed outside of the barrel, because that's where the round's going. Again, careful. You treat this spring as if it's a loaded pistol right here, with that being the muzzle. Extractor, I can clean that a little bit actually. Now when you go to reassemble, I'm going to oil this up before you go to reassemble, but you want to have this part facing forward. And that's also, make sure you got it the same way it came when you take it apart. That's the same way when you go to put it back. You want it forward. In my case, mine has the numbers on the top, and on the opposite side there is no numbers. Sorry about the lighting, but it is what it is. So everything is cleaned at this point that I want it to. It's now, yes, I did do that. Okay. It is now time to oil everything that moves. With a machine gun like this, you want to oil liberally. There are you want to look at the manufacturer's paperwork for you. Okay, I just did something wrong. If you've all paid attention with what I was saying, you'll know what it is. But for those of you who didn't, I had that spring cross my belly. I should have flipped it the other way. Yeah, some weapons you'll find the manufacturer's paperwork says do not oil heavy. You want to oil all your weapons, but some of them you want to oil lightly, some of them you want to oil heavy. All should be in your usual user manual for the particular weapon. Okay, now even though I've oiled that, I'm also going to oil in here the parts that it glides against, and then where the other stuff moves. There we go. And then there's a top groove on here that gets oiled liberally as well. And yes, as a machine gun, it does chew through a lot of oil. When you field your weapon with like this, you always want to have a parts kit for whatever weapon you are using, but with this, it takes a lot. This is my mobile parts kit for this weapon. I've got the oil, I've got the bore cleaner, everything there. What I have is a spare parts kit, which is growing. You know, I keep whatever parts break the most. In my case, the only thing I've ever had break is the extractor. But as I go forth, I want to get all the parts and fill that in. Now, that's a financial obligation to maintain these things. So the first, obviously, when you're starting out, like I am with the financial end of things, you want to get the stuff that is more likely to break as your replacement parts, and then work your way out to the less likely. What I'm doing here right now is I missed some areas where I want to oil. You can get some gun grease as well. The only reason I'm not using that right now is I am out of gun grease in my kit. Before I use this again, I plan on having gun grease on the very important areas for it. I did it again. Take a deep breath. Okay. Pass it like this and like this. Okay. Then it comes to reassembly. Okay. So, in this case, barrel first. Then this goes in. This threads. You want to make sure you got it nice and started properly. Okay. With this weapon, you can get a head spacing gauge, but there's an old trick. What you do is you make sure it's nice and flush. And then you back it off 1, 2, 3 clicks. No more, no less. Head spacing gauge will make it more accurate. Once you've got that set, you load this part in. Note, your head spacing will change with weather. And this goes here. There's a tab here when you go to push this in. Make sure I don't cross myself again. I've done that multiple times today. Very safety problematic there. So there we go. Everything's starting to get back into place. Turn it on its side. The side with the charging handle. Okay. Actually, what I find is it's actually easier to use the flathead screwdriver for this side of it. Push it down and slide her in. Okay, once you get her started, you can push it all the way in until the nipple catches the hole. There you go. Then you guide that back. And what you'll find sometimes is it locks in, so you lift the extractor, get it to where you need it to go. Push the extractor back in because that's got its own little nipple. Then you can pull it back further on the charging handle where the hole widens. And then you cannot put this in if you do this part wrong. But all you need to do is just slide that forward. And then we're going to turn this like this. Stop crossing over myself. So, yes, I did cross over the barrel in that particular case, but I'd rather do that in this particular case because I know that that spring is capable of charging itself. Then what I need is my handy dandy screwdriver. Again, your mileage may vary. If your weapon has been fired a lot, for example, this will probably be a lot looser. Mine is not. I should pry that forward a bit. And that can completely come off, by the way. You put your handle down, let that set back. Now everything's back together. Put that forward, slide. This part here goes back and forth. You want to slide that to this most part. Note, if it's too loose, you can actually go underneath there. So you actually want to guide it here, and then you can close it. The reason that that's important is you want to make sure you do not have that go and slam where there's no trail. You want that going into the track, which is also why I had the charging handle forward all the way, because I know forward all the way, that part goes to the left. That is part of the belt feeder mechanism. Then you pull the charging handle back, and you release that spring that I was so worried about. It goes all the way forward. You test it. It fires. She's ready to go into hibernation until next event. Or until I get the grease, whichever comes first. Okay. Everything's done. It's just pickup now, so hope everyone enjoys, and hope those that are getting into 1919s actually find use out of that.